Coming up, the city honors a fallen hero with a funeral that friends, family, fellow officers, and the community come out to.
Little patchy fog beginning to creep in, but we've got a warm-up Wednesday on our hands. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Carl Junction students raise money through an online auction for families of the Joplin PD.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Normally, Tanya, on a morning like this, we take a look at these visibility numbers on the fog tracker and we kind of be like, well, that's not too bad, you know, maybe some low-lying area. These numbers are going to drop throughout our morning. The fog now beginning to creep in, a result of our warm-up and that moisture still lingering from the Gulf. The Gulf precipitation that moved in there from yesterday. So just be very, very careful here. Now we're slipping below 3 miles in northeast Oklahoma and certainly throughout southwest Missouri. We know those problematic areas, especially around Carl Junction. We're going to see those drop relatively quickly today. Skywatch Storm Tracker remains on the clear side. Nice to have a nice looking morning. Don't have to worry about anything. A little bit cooler in Pittsburgh and Parsons, sitting at 39 and 37. Compare that to the 47s just down the road in Joplin and in Carthage. 41 in Nevada. Let's roll 39 in Miami as well. No worries about this afternoon. We're going to push up into the 70s with a whole bunch of sunshine. Going to have to fight the south wind again. Now, we don't have any red flag warnings. Those are just hanging out to our west. Then we get ready for back-to-back days up into the 70s, not only Wednesday, but also Thursday afternoon, and then St. Patrick's night. That's when the thunderstorm activity is going to kick in. We see it originate with a system that comes out of the west. The freezing precipitation, that's going to stay really out in western Kansas right there. But we begin to get more widespread as we approach Thursday midnight, and then Friday morning, we're kind of all entrenched with it. That is for sure, as we'll see the cold front begin to creep in and kind of make its way down to the southeast right there. So a little bit chillier on Friday. We're easily going to pick up inch to inch and a half of rain from Friday into Saturday. So certainly a lot more accumulation than what we experienced from Monday into Tuesday.
Almost forgot that tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day.
Tis indeed, according to my 7-day it is. That's why we do this. It's essentially a cheat sheet for me. Thank goodness for people like Nick that stay on top of that calendar, because I come in on a Monday and I go, oh, that is this week.
Yes, because that is your reminder that when Valentine's Day is happening, Christmas, you know, you got to do your shopping the day before.
That's how that works.
It happens.
That's what I do. Okay. Next year, there's always next year.
Thanks, Michael.
Coop never wavered in his dedication of being a police officer. It's not just a profession, it was his calling. He tried to get away from it once, but couldn't. He came back. He truly loved this job and loved what he was doing.
Honors for a husband, a father, a hero. Funeral service at Missouri Southern's Leggett and Platt Center paid tribute to fallen Joplin police officer Corporal Ben Cooper, who gave his life in the line of duty 1 week ago. Corporal Cooper was a 1993 graduate of Carl Junction High School, and now Carl Junction students are hosting an online auction to raise money for Joplin PD families. Items for sale include home decor and sports memorabilia from the Kansas City Chiefs and an autographed jersey from the Baltimore Ravens.
I'm more hoping that just giving back to the community, especially my dad is a police officer, so I totally understand. I probably don't understand to their level of what they're facing right now, but I've had that fear.
The auction will be on March 26th and 27th. You can find more information on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. And back to that funeral. Friends, family, fellow first responders, and the community gathered for the funeral service yesterday. Following the service inside, a ceremony was held outside, which included taps, bagpipes, and a helicopter flyover. Members of the community and the 4-state area gathered along Main Street from 3rd to 19th Street for the procession.
I want to pay our respects to the police officer, you know, service to the community, and that's just, you know, it's heartbreaking, but I think we as a community, I think it's brought people together.
People lose sight of what they go through on a day-to-day basis. Cops see the darkest parts of people. And it's a scary thing for a lot of people to have to actually think about. And my heart goes out really to the friends and family of those officers that were involved.
You could see yesterday's entire funeral service at the Leggett and Platt Center at KOAMnewsnow.com or the KOAM News Now YouTube page. You can also see aerial footage of the funeral procession through our KOAM Plus app. Funeral services will also take place this week for Officer Jake Reed. These services will also be at the Leggett and Platt Center. Visitation will be on Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. The funeral will be on Friday at 1. Coffeyville, Kansas Police Department is looking for a person of interest in the shooting death of a minor. Police say the shooting happened on Sunday on North Walnut Street. The victim from Chanute was found with gunshot wounds and was taken to a hospital where they later died. Authorities are looking for 19-year-old Traven Hayes Smith of Coffeyville as a person of interest in the case. Pittsburgh Public Library is giving local teens a chance to help out their community. The library is hosting Volunteens. It's an event open to junior high and high school students looking to get some volunteer hours on their schedule.
So it's a really great opportunity for teens to come in, do community service, help their community, meet other friends, have a few snacks, and just have a good time.
Library is hosting another Volunteens event next week on the 24th at 4 p.m. Missouri Southern is again offering help to people who are filing their taxes. The Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program will help qualified individuals and families file on 3 dates over the next month. To qualify, you must make less than $58,000 per year. Appointments are required and will take place this Saturday, March 19th, April 2nd, April 16th at the Plaster Center. People are asked to bring photo ID, social security cards, and necessary tax forms, including a 2020 tax return. Did you make a lot of mistakes yesterday? Well, have no fear, because today everything you do is right. Thanks to National Everything You Do Is Right Day. Is this a thing? Today you get to feel that everything you do is right in comparison to National Everything You Do Is Wrong Day. That printer you're using, well, it'll print beautifully today. No typos, no duplicate paragraphs, and you'll even get the right amount of copies. Those bad jokes you tell, don't worry, they'll be right today. So enjoy this day of doing everything right, even when it doesn't seem like you're doing it correctly. It means you can't go wrong with your forecast, Michael.
Right.
Can't go
right.
wrong.
Nothing ever, as long as I don't go to the grocery store and I avoid people, everything always goes right with the forecast. It's just when I run into people. Gas
So
station,
true.
grocery store.
So true.
Trying to buy softball shoes with my kid. You know, just things like that.
I'm going to go back through my checklist of the things that I needed to fix today and say, nah, not today.
Right.
They're right.
You know, picking out batting gloves. Michael, why is it not raining in my backyard? I don't know. Where do you live? Oh, hey, speaking of going shopping and running into people, met a delightful father and son from Cherryvale.
Okay.
Yeah, they happened to be in my neck of the woods the other day, and if you guys are watching out there, and I hope you're enjoying your spring break, but anyway, it was a pleasure meeting the both of you, and I hope your shopping trip was successful as well. All right, time to sunrise at 7:27. Sunny and warm today. South wind 10 to 15, gusting up to 20 miles per hour. Remember, today is the perfect day to get stuff done outside, especially if you can't go wrong doing anything. Sounds like a little DIY is going to be in my future this afternoon.
All right, that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Frank Clark's contract gets reworked by the Chiefs. Plus, a teen artist in Tennessee preserves Ukrainian cities through art. We'll explain how. And don't sleep with the lights on, because it could be bad for your health. We'll explain why. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Crowder College softball, once again, one of the best teams in the nation so far. Right now, Rough Riders are 20-2 overall. Winners of 16 straight, up to number 14 in the national rankings. At home on Tuesday, looking to stay hot, got a doubleheader against Fort Scott. Both teams showing off a little defense early. Former McDonald County Mustang Rita Santillan starts the double play for Crowder. Go to 4-6 for 1, to 3 for 2. Then in the third, Madison Lee at shortstop. Oh, Lee laying out. Game scoreless until the 5th. In the 5th, Greyhounds strike first. Ivory Reitner fights it off to short. Now the throw gets away. Alexis McGranahan scores all the way from first. Fort Scott up 1-0. Big response from Crowder in the bottom half. Second and third, and Courtney Story up. Gatney one into left field. Both runners score, and the Rough Riders have their first lead. Later in the inning, bases loaded for Nia Cox. Into the left field corner. And that's going to clear them. 8 runs in the 5th inning for Crowder as they take Game 1 over Fort Scott. Final score, 9-5. In Game 2, Crowder looking for that doubleheader sweep and able to pick it up against the Greyhounds as they win it 9-1. Crowder 22-2 overall, winners of now 18 straight games. Missouri Southern Lions have won 4 in a row. Lions just finished off a 3-game sweep on the road over Central Oklahoma Monday night. Last night, right back on the field in Claremore. Get to face Rogers State as the Hillcats come up 9-7 winners. As a matter of fact, Rogers State wins this thing in the 10th inning on a walk-off home run. Tregan Parker and Ryan Doran each hit home runs for Missouri Southern. Lions back in action on Friday, getting set for a home series against Washburn. Pitt State's Jordan Maxson named MIAA Hitter of the Week. Monster out there for the Gorillas on Saturday and Sunday against Northwest Missouri State. In 2 wins, Maxson hit .625 with 4 home runs and 8 RBIs. He's hitting .444 on the season. That's second in the MIAA. He's got 8 home runs this year. Here he is on that big weekend against Northwest Mo.
Lately, I've just been kind of seeing the ball well and putting really good swings on some good pitches that I'm looking for. So throughout the weekend, the day before, I thought that they were throwing me kind of the same as like the day before, so I was kind of sitting on the same pitches. And when it came time to swing, I just tried to swing really hard and put a good swing on it. So
well, he's been unbelievable for us. As hot a hitter as I've ever had, in a stretch. So, he just feels good about himself every time he walks in the box, and he's not trying to make adjustments to pulling the baseball or hitting the other way. He's doing what he does right, and he's been getting away with it. So hopefully he can continue to roll.
And finally, Frank Clark coming back to Kansas City as Clark and the Chiefs agree on restructuring his contract. It'll be for 2 years, up to $36 million. As a defensive end, he had 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and did so in 14 games for Kansas City last season. Now, Clark, remember, he's just 28 years old and a 3-time NFL Pro Bowl selection. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, a sarcophagus found in Notre Dame is unearthed by archaeologists. And a check on our 7-day forecast from the KOAM Morning News returns. Just earlier in the show, we had Tanya telling us everything was going to go right today, and during the commercial break, all of a sudden we've got 18 speakers in the studio that are spitting out different feeds and whatnot, and so I think Tanya just about jinxed that weather segment right there. 47 degrees is where we stand over 7th and Rangeline right now. Because of our humidity being so high this morning, we are picking up some patchy fog. Numbers will continue to drop visibility-wise. We're not seeing a whole lot show up on the radar as of yet, but this is something we're going to pay close attention to. Make sure you give yourself a lot of room between you and other drivers today. Still have some high 30s that we're hanging on to. Neodesha and Parsons at 37. Compare that to the 10-degree difference that we see in Joplin and Carthage, all the way up to 47. Miami right now at 39. Let's throw 41 in at Stockton. Now, the reason we've gotten some of those cooler temperatures is compared to what we had earlier this week, lack of cloud cover. Everything is just clear and calm as can be. We also have some red flag warnings for our far western counties out in southeast Kansas. Those will be elevated fire concerns for later on today. South wind really picking up. Remember, outdoor burning can remain dangerous. As they kind of start with us and then wrap down almost an upside down L shape and work on the other side south of the Red River. Nationally speaking, that'll be our thunderstorm activity for today. Not a whole lot behind it. We're kind of waiting on this system to make its way over the Rockies, and it'll combo with some Gulf moisture that'll be on us for Thursday night into Friday. We're going to get out unscathed today, work up into the 70s with a whole bunch of sunshine, and then overnight, very mild temperatures as we'll probably only sink into the low 50s. Let's talk about that rain that we've got coming, though. It'll come from the left-hand portion of your screen for Thursday night into Friday morning. as it develops here too, it's going to be much more widespread than what we encountered from Monday into Tuesday. Last us through most of Friday morning, and a little bit of a cold front as temperatures will drop on the backside of it, but all that freezing precipitation that you saw on the future track right there will stay out far to our west. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. Kyiv, Ukraine, a city of beauty and history, and Russian bombs are destroying more of it every day. Same's happening all across Ukraine, erasing architecture and cityscapes that are in some cases hundreds of years old. Halfway around the world, a teenager from Nashville is working to preserve the beauty of Ukraine's city and doing so one painting at a time. Clara Kopsky with her story.
To say 14-year-old Ella Bramlett is talented is an understatement.
I've been painting my whole life.
She and her brothers also played the violin at places like the Ryman, the Schermerhorn, and the Grand Ole Opry.
The arts is very much in my family.
2 years ago, she started leaning into her artistic talent, selling her artwork.
I've tried a bunch of different mediums and everything, and I don't know, I feel like watercolor has just been the one that I've connected with most.
Up until a few weeks ago, her work had been a way to express herself. But then, as the conflict in Ukraine started, her work quickly became about others.
We were all watching the news together, and I'm always painting when I'm watching TV, so we were like witnessing Kyiv being bombed, and it's heartbreaking to think about. I looked up a few pictures of Kyiv and just started painting it.
Within a few days, Ella painted 2 Ukrainian cities, Kyiv and Kharkiv. While we were visiting with her, she painted another one, Mariupol.
Those are 2 others that have been really influenced by all the bombing and stuff, and those are 2 of the other hardest hit cities.
Ella started selling her prints of Ukraine cityscapes on her social media pages, donated 100% of the profits to Sea Star Kids and Eastern European missions.
It's something that concerns everyone because we're all people and we're all God's children, and so we should all do what we can to help.
For her, that's painting cities that may no longer be the cities its people remember.
That brings us to our Something to Talk About, our question. Would you use a skill you have to help raise money for Ukraine? Several ways to connect with us. You can go straight to the poll, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. You can also connect to us via our Facebook page, or if you've got your phone, just snap a picture of our QR code, and that will deliver you right to the Insta poll. And we'll bring that back a little later in the show. No need to fumble around and drop the coffee. We'll come back and make sure you have plenty of time to do it. We'll be back with Health Watch right after this.
Your tax dollars go further at iMart Express.
Topping Health Watch this morning, when is the last time you saw your primary care doctor? If that question brings a bit of anxiety, you're not alone. A recent analysis of U.S. adults found less than half have a regular doctor whom they have seen for 5 years or more. In the analysis released Tuesday by the Commonwealth Fund, researchers found that only 43% of Americans had a 5-year relationship with a regular doctor. That's the lowest in an analysis comparing American access to primary health care to access in Sweden, Canada, Switzerland, Australia, France, Germany, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Norway. American physicians were also least likely to say they offered after-hours care or make home visits frequently. Researchers say sleeping with even a little light in the room could be bad for your health. The Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences published a study from Northwestern University School of Medicine on Monday. A team analyzed 20 healthy people in their 20s as they spent 2 nights in a sleep lab. They found that being exposed to even a moderate amount of ambient lighting during sleep activated participants' sympathetic nervous system, causing their heart rates to rise. Researchers say that can throw off the functions of the nervous systems, which helps restore our bodies while we sleep. They also found people who slept with the light on had insulin resistance in the morning. That's when the body cannot use glucose from the blood for energy. According to the researchers, impaired glucose and cardiovascular regulation put people at risk for heart disease, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Allergy sufferers beware. A new study suggests allergy season is getting worse, and it's all because of climate change. Wind-driven pollen is closely tied to temperature and precipitation changes, so as spring seasons get warmer earlier, plants could pollinate much earlier and for a longer period of time. The study found different tree pollen varieties that once varied in timing will eventually overlap with each other, and that will lead to overall higher concentrations of tree pollen that threaten public health. Research found that by the end of this century, pollen season in the U.S. could begin 40 days earlier than now, and the pollen count could climb by 250%. Let's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
So we've got some 30s hanging up on the board here temperature-wise. Look out to the west of southeast Kansas. 36, our low spot right now in Neodesha. Excuse me, even Anderson, down in the southern portion of southwest Missouri, still holding on at 39. Now the reason is we lost all our cloud cover. It's going to make for a delightful Wednesday afternoon though. Quick little warm up into the 70s by the time we hit our peak hours, in between about 2 to 4 o'clock is when we'll have those. Remember, good south winds still coming in. We've got a red flag warning for our far western counties of southeast Kansas. Make it through today in perfect fashion. Rise up into the 70s once again on Thursday. And then Thursday night, here come the thunderstorms. Work in from not only the west, a little southerly action as well, and much more widespread. Luckily, we'll keep all that freezing precip out to the west and be back right after this.
Coming up, the city honors a fallen hero with a funeral that friends, family, fellow officers, and the community come out to.
Going to easily cruise past our average high for this time of year, and by the time the week's said and done, also increase our precipitation. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Carl Junction students raise money through an online auction for families of the Joplin PD.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:31. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
We got a couple temperatures, Tanya, that are right close to that average low, but I'll tell you what we'll do for our high today is we'll split the difference between the average, which would be about 60, and that record that dates back to 2012. It's not that old. 82 degrees. We'll end up about, say 72, 73 this afternoon. So we've got a little bit to pick up here, and the reason that we have temperatures that sank down even into the low 40s, some high 30s out there, our loss of cloud cover. Because we don't have to worry about the clouds, well, and of course we lose that daily heat. Now we got to make it back up, and we will easily. Also keeping track of reduced visibility numbers that continue to fall, especially for our southern counties throughout Wednesday morning. Do not have any dense fog advisories out as of yet. Think we can probably avoid those. We do have red flag warnings for the western edge, though, of southeast Kansas. Day plan are going to lift us up into the 70s by the noon hour. Look about 75 there, peak heating hours. Gusting 20, 25 miles per hour by the time we get to about 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon. But Wednesday and Thursday going to come across clean on future track. That is until we get to Wednesday night. Wednesday night, we've got a system that moves in, going to make its way over the Rockies, head toward us. Going to bring us widespread rain for late Thursday night all the way through Friday morning, easily looking at an inch of accumulation. We'll be able to keep this at bay out to our west. We won't have to worry about any of the freeze because we're going to hang on to temperatures well above that 32-degree mark. May in that upper atmosphere want to flip over, but by the time it gets down to us on the ground, it'll be fine. Shouldn't have any flooding concerns. Will be a little bit cooler on Friday, but then back into the 60s on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, at least it's not going to get down to like 30 degrees.
Nah, it's not a massive cold front.
Yeah.
Really just kind of evens out being in the 70s there for 2 days.
Keep it above freezing.
Yeah, that's the important part because Nick and I were staring at that yesterday and we were talking about it. It's just ground's going to be too, even if that upper atmosphere is freezing over Wichita, ground's just going to be too warm.
Yeah.
So.
We'll take it. All right, thanks, Michael. Corporal Cooper was a 1993 graduate of Carl Junction High School, and now Carl Junction students are hosting an online auction to raise money for Joplin PD families. Items for sale include home decor and sports memorabilia from the Kansas City Chiefs and an autographed jersey from the Baltimore Ravens.
I'm more hoping that just giving back to the community, especially my dad is a police officer, so I totally understand. I probably don't understand to their level of what they're facing right now, but I've had that fear.
The auction will be on March 26th and 27th. You can find more information on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. The mourners included the family, fellow first responders from around the region and the nation, and the entire four-state community, many of whom gathered for a procession that followed the indoor service. KOAM's Chris Warner has more.
Following the funeral service for Corporal Benjamin Cooper Tuesday, a special ceremony was held outside. Then, members of the Joplin community and four-state area lined Main Street to send a final farewell to Corporal Cooper and to thank him for his dedicated service to the city.
It's important to me to show Joplin and its residents and the city and the police that they're supported in this tragic, unnecessary event. So I drove in from Norman, Oklahoma this morning because I was in Norman and I wanted to get here in time for this. So it was just important to me to be here.
I want to pay our respects to the police officer, service to the community, and that's just, it's heartbreaking, but I think we as a community, I think it's brought people together. I'm so grateful for the Joplin Police Department, all they do for our community, and I'm appreciative.
People lose sight of what they go through on a day-to-day basis. Cops see the darkest parts of people, and it's a scary thing for a lot of people to have to actually think about. And my heart goes out really to the friends and family of those officers that were involved.
Joplin Dispatch to 222. This is the last call for Joplin, Missouri Police Department Corporal Benjamin Cooper. Radio 222.
Godspeed, Corporal Cooper, and we thank you.
You can see the entire funeral service at the Leggett and Platt Center at KOAMnewsnow.com or the KOAM News Now YouTube page. You can also see aerial footage from the funeral procession through the KOAM Plus app. Well, funeral services will also take place this week for Officer Jake Reed. These services will also be at the Leggett and Platt Center. Visitation will be on Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. The funeral will be on Friday at 1. Coffeyville, Kansas Police Department is looking for a person of interest in the shooting death of a minor. Police say the shooting happened on Sunday on North Walnut Street. The victim from Chanute was found with gunshot wounds and was taken to a hospital where that victim later died. Authorities are looking for 19-year-old Traven Hayes Smith of Coffeyville as a person of interest in the case. Missouri Southern is again offering to help people to file their taxes. The Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program will help qualified individuals and families file on 3 dates over the next month. To qualify, you must make less than $58,000 per year. Appointments are required and will take place this Saturday, March 19th, April 2nd, and April 16th at the Leggett and Platt Center. People are asked to bring photo ID, Social Security cards, and necessary tax forms, including a 2020 tax return. Here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
Remember, visibility is dropping. Just went out and checked it. Tell you what, parking lot's about shrouded in fog. Give yourself a lot of room between you and other drivers. Use those the old normal beams. Try not to put on your high beams today, and then get back and get ready for some sunshine and temperatures up into the 70s. We really don't have to worry about anything inclement until we get to Thursday night.
All right, this morning we're discussing using skills to help others. Teen artist in Tennessee is using her art skills to help preserve the cities of Ukraine. How, you ask? Well, by painting them. She's then selling the paintings to raise money for the Ukrainians who are currently displaced by the war. And this brings us to our something to talk about. Would you use a skill that you have to help raise money for Ukraine?
Get this, Tanya, because you were writing an update during that story. She actually painted one of the skyscapes while the reporter was interviewing her.
That's cool.
It was great to watch. Right now we're split right down the middle, 50-50. You can make your voice heard each and every morning, either by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or connecting to us via our Facebook page.
All right. Remember, there's no wrong answer today because everything you do is right.
Okay, good. Here comes the curtain, folks. So while you were writing your update and I was getting ready for weather.
Oh, I heard.
Oh, you heard the 8 different speakers go off? Okay. Because I was like, wait, Tanya said everything was going to go right today.
Oh, I just heard during your weather.
Ron and I are looking at each other going, where's this coming from?
Don't worry, it'll all be okay.
We're good now.
Everything is right.
And it was right. We got it off before the weather started, so we were good to go.
There you go. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. Time on the internet has gone up for kids since the pandemic started. How you can keep your kids safe from being exploited. Plus, the U.S. meets with China to talk about Ukraine, among other things. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Franklin Technology.
Topping World Watch, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan meets Monday with top Chinese diplomat Yang Jiechi in Rome. No further details have been released beyond that it included the Ukraine crisis. Experts say the meeting between senior American and Chinese officials could have far-reaching consequences, not only for the ongoing war in Ukraine, but for China's role in the world and its relationship with the West. Meeting has also taken on additional urgency as concerns grow in the West that Beijing is not only siding with Russia by not condemning its aggression in Ukraine, but could take further steps to aid its strategic partner. Archaeologists at Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral unearthed a lead sarcophagus and other fragments, offering a rare insight into the history of the cathedral. The find is described as spectacular. Archaeologists believe it belonged to a high dignitary and could date back to the 14th century. Notre Dame commissioned the excavation inside the church as a precautionary measure ahead of the installation of scaffolding needed to restore the wooden roof ridge. The cathedral is currently under reconstruction after a fire nearly destroyed the building in 2019. UK charity worker detained in Iran for nearly 6 years finally has her passport back. Iranian authorities returned the British passport to Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe. The development raises new hopes for negotiations for her release. She's already served 5 years in prison. Iranian authorities convicted her of plotting to overthrow the government. Her supporters and rights groups denied the charges and have been fighting for her freedom. Now, since her release from prison, she's been held under house arrest, unable to leave the country. Zaghari Ratcliffe has dual UK and Iranian citizenship. Her lawyer says he hopes negotiations to allow her to leave the country will be concluded soon. President Biden is now set to travel to meet with NATO leaders in Europe next week to address next steps in handling Russia's deadly and destructive invasion of Ukraine. As the UN reports, more than 3 million people have now fled the war-torn nation. Cole Higgins has the latest.
Black smoke rises and flames rage from a Russian-bombed apartment building in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. A lethal air attack destroying the homes of civilians.
In Mariupol, people are living in hell, and situation in Mariupol are catastrophic.
In the besieged city of Mariupol, the deputy mayor says people are being held captive.
The Russian army use doctors and patients as hostages in this building, so we do not have any access to them, and of course it's war crime in any way.
As war rages across Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is issuing a new call to close the skies over the country.
Can you imagine when you call your friends, your friendly nation, and you ask, please close the sky, close the airspace, please stop the bombing? How many more missiles have to fall on our cities until you make this happen?
The White House says it still does not support a no-fly zone over Ukraine and has announced President Biden will join NATO world leaders in Brussels, Belgium next week for an extraordinary meeting and show of U.S. support for Ukraine.
We're moving urgently to further augment the support to the brave people of Ukraine as they defend their country.
I'm Cole Higgins reporting.
That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Friends, family, fellow first responders, and the community gather Tuesday for Corporal Ben Cooper's funeral service. Following the service inside, a ceremony was held outside, which included taps, bagpipes, and a helicopter flyover. Members of the community and the four-state area gathered along Main Street from 3rd to 19th Street for the procession. Funeral services will also take place this week for Officer Jake Reed. These services will also be at the Leggett and Platt Center. Visitation will be on Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. Funeral will be on Friday at 1. Corporal Cooper was a 1993 graduate of Carl Junction High School, and now Carl Junction students are hosting an online auction to raise money for Joplin PD families. Items for sale include home decor and sports memorabilia from the Kansas City Chiefs and an autographed jersey from the Baltimore Ravens. Coffeyville, Kansas Police Department is looking for a person of interest in the shooting death of a minor. Police say the shooting happened on Sunday on North Walnut Street. The victim from Chanute was found with gunshot wounds and was taken to a hospital where that victim later died. Authorities are looking for 19-year-old Traven Hayes Smith of Coffeyville as a person of interest in the case. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Here's where we stand right now temperature-wise. We still got some 30s lingering around. Also lingering, the patchy fog as the visibility continues to get worse across the four states. So please know when you head out on the road, especially when you get to those low-lying areas, those agricultural areas, that humidity that we picked up from Monday into Tuesday, still hanging around, and that's making a huge difference in our driving conditions. But let the sun rise here at 7:27 over Joplin, and we'll have a quick little burn off of the fog and then begin our jaunt up around 70 degrees this afternoon. It is going to be a great middle of the week for the middle of March. Going to get back-to-back 70-degree days on both Wednesday and Thursday. Staying on the dry side for each and every morning and afternoon. That dry side begins to change here Thursday night. We see a system work in from the west, and also too, you notice we filter in from the south. So as it kind of has some counterclockwise motion to it, we'll not only pick up some bouts of heavy rain early Friday morning, but also thunder and lightning thrown in there as well. We'll keep that freezing precipitation off to our far west, though. Anything you see flip over there, yeah, upper atmosphere may be cold enough that it wants to present itself as that, but our ground's going to be nice and warm coming off 2 days in the 70s. A little bit cooler after the rain ends on Friday with temperatures in the low to mid 50s, but then we're right back into the 60s, if not 70s, for both Saturday and Sunday. And we'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Lander Chevrolet of Joplin.
We're learning troubling new information about the online dangers to children who have been spending more time in front of computers during the pandemic. The number of calls about attempts to lure or exploit children online has surged 35% to one tip line in just the past year. Scott McFarland exclusively obtained a new review by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children with a warning for all parents.
When she was 13 years old, Alicia Kozak thought she'd found another teen friend online. Lured from her home in Pittsburgh by a man who held her captive for days, eventually triggering a nationwide manhunt.
I was taken to Virginia and held captive in his basement dungeon, where I suffered horrendous abuse.
More than a decade after being rescued by law enforcement, Kozak says predators realize kids across America now have even wider access to phones and computers at an even younger age.
If a predator were to try to groom a child at a park or at a mall or somewhere at school, something like that, they really only have those few chances. Whereas on the internet, they can just easily close that chat box and close that app and go to that next possible victim.
Predators recognized there was a moment and an opportunity in a pandemic.
The predators recognized that there was going to be more hours online where teens and children were going to be unsupervised, and they were encouraging each other to seize upon that opportunity.
The nonprofit National Center for Missing and Exploited Children operates a clearinghouse for tips of child online exploitation. In a new report released to CBS News, the center says it received 29.3 million reports of suspected child sexual exploitation last year, an increase of 35% from 2020, and an all-time high. As for parents, Kozak says taking away devices is not the answer.
They have to monitor what their children are doing online. They have to pay attention, and I know it might seem like you're invading their privacy, but you're not. You're keeping them safe.
Nearly all of the 29 million tips came from electronic service providers, phone companies and social media companies, which are required to report any unlawful images to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. One other note, they received more tips about videos last year than they did still images. Scott McFarland, CBS News, Washington.
We'll be right back.
Couple things of note to pass along. Red flag warnings for our far western counties of southeast Kansas. That's an indicator of some high afternoon winds and also dropping humidity. Our humidity not too bad right now, but that results in grassland fire dangers, as we'll have wind gusts out to the west of close to 40 miles per hour. And that humidity sinking down to 20%. And what a dramatic change that is, considering we're at 90% relative humidity in Joplin right now. Skywatch Storm Tracker looks very, very clear. And that's also, too, why we still have some 30s out there as far as our temperatures go. Still a delightful start. Also, too, coming up here in just a little bit, let's tackle our fog, because visibility numbers, they're not increasing. And while it's been patchy at best, it's still going to hamper some driving and slow things down. We'll be back, break down the 7-day right after this.
Coming up, the city of Joplin pays respect to a fallen hero in the line of duty.
Couple more days of having a great shot of our nearly full moon, but we've got a little thunderstorm activity to talk about before it actually is full. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Coral Junction students come together to raise money for families of the Joplin Police Department.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Your first inclination is to go, hey, there's not much to see out there. Well, but we're familiar enough with this shot to know that this is outside of Television City right here. And usually, even at this point in time, we'd be able to see the flag and the pole and whatnot. But look at the fog that's shrouding our lights out front. It's hard out there in the parking lot to really even see anything right now. As we progress to 7th and Range Line, there is our nearly full moon. The full moon will actually be on the 18th. Problem is, by the time we get to the 18th, we're going to have increased cloud cover and some thunderstorms. So take it in for really the next 2 days. That's pointing off to the west there over 7th and Range Line, where we sit at a very comfortable 46 degrees. Daily almanac for today, our average high would be 60 degrees. We'll be about 12 to 13 degrees warmer than that. So it's going to be a marvelous Wednesday afternoon. And that's going to result in about a 25-degree increase for these places that are still sitting right now in the 30s. As far as a fog tracker does go, the visibility numbers, while not too low, we have seen them slip, especially right here along the Missouri-Kansas state line and then south into northeast Oklahoma. Give yourself a lot of room between you and other drivers. Now, the Skywatch Storm Tracker, it remains clear, not only void of precipitation, but even cloud cover. Just a marvelous Wednesday morning start, sans fog. All the way up into the 70s today with a whole lot of sunshine. South wind picking up. Will gust between, say, 20 to 25 miles per hour here a little bit later, and that's why we've got those red flag warnings on the far western edge of southeast Kansas. As far as future track, today and tomorrow, 70 degrees and a whole bunch of sunshine until we get to Thursday night. Thursday night will bring us a system that will work in from our west. Thunderstorm activity for Thursday night and widespread, especially considering how we kind of just got random raindrops on Monday night into Tuesday. This will actually bring a little thunder, lightning, and at times some hard rain all the way through mid-Friday morning. And after it does kick out, a little bit cooler, but nice looking weekend, 60s and 70s on Saturday and Sunday.
All right, well, looking forward to a nice weather day come St. Patrick's Day, though.
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day afternoon is going to be absolutely delightful.
Yeah, get your green on. No pinching here.
Yes.
Is that like a weatherman's nightmare because you're not supposed to wear green? In
No, you have to forgive me. Your weatherman actually just cut himself.
Oh. We'll get back to that
So
later.
live television. That's why I'm like stuck right here.
All right, thanks,
I
Mike.
need to, yeah. I got stuff.
You take care of that.
Right.
We'll move on.
Thank you.
There's been a lot of comments about Ben's sacrifice last Tuesday and about the sacrifice he made. But I want us to realize something. Last Tuesday wasn't Ben's sacrifice. Coop's life was a life of sacrifice.
A husband, a father, a hero, laid to rest. Funeral service at Missouri Southern's Leggett and Platt Center paid tribute to fallen Joplin police officer Corporal Ben Cooper, who gave his life in the line of duty 1 week ago. Members of the community attended the funeral service yesterday alongside friends, family, and fellow first responders. And following the service inside, a ceremony was held outside, which included taps, bagpipes, and a helicopter flyover. Members of the community in the four-state area gathered along Main Street from 3rd to 19th Street for the procession.
I want to pay our respects to the police officer, service to the community, and that's just, it's heartbreaking, but I think we as a community, I think it's brought people together.
People lose sight of what they go through on a day-to-day basis. Cops see the darkest parts of people, and it's a scary thing for a lot of people to have to actually think about. And my heart goes out really to the friends and family of those officers that were involved.
You can see the entire funeral service at the Leggett and Platt Center at KOAMnewsnow.com or the KOAM News Now YouTube page. You can also see aerial footage of the funeral procession through the KOAM Plus app. Corporal Cooper graduated from Carl Junction High School in 1993, and now Carl Junction students are hosting an online auction to raise money for Joplin PD families. Items for sale include home decor and sports memorabilia from the Kansas City Chiefs and an autographed jersey from the Baltimore Ravens.
I'm more hoping that just giving back to the community, especially my dad is a police officer, so I totally understand. I probably don't understand to their level of what they're facing right now, but I've had that fear.
The auction will be on March 26th and 27th. You can find more information on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, funeral services will be held later this week for Officer Jake Reed. These services will also be at the Leggett and Platt Center. Visitation will be on Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. The funeral will be on Friday at 1. Coffeyville, Kansas police are searching for a person of interest in the shooting death of a minor. Police say the shooting happened on Sunday on North Walnut Street. The victim from Chanute was found with gunshot wounds and was taken to a hospital where that victim later died. Authorities are looking for 19-year-old Traven Hayes Smith of Coffeyville as a person of interest in the case. President Biden signed the approval to send billions of dollars to support Ukraine, and he is expected to announce an additional $800 million in military assistance later today. The news comes as fighting reaches the doorstep of Ukraine's capital of Kyiv. Kyiv's mayor has pleaded for residents to take shelter, but says many want to fight. In somewhat of a surprise move, the prime ministers of Poland, the Czech Republic, and Slovenia visited the embattled capital. President Biden is scheduled to travel to Brussels for an emergency NATO summit, but the White House did not mention if he plans to meet with Zelensky. We'll have more on the war in Ukraine later in the show. Oklahoma Senate just passed a bill that would make it unnecessary for Oklahoma's health commissioner to be a medical doctor or have a background in health administration. The measure now heads to the House. Under the current law, the state health commissioner must be a doctor or have a doctoral degree in public health or a master's degree with 5 years of experience in health administration. The bill adds an exemption for candidates with a master's degree and experience in managing large projects. On this date in 1802, the United States establishes the first military school in West Point, New York. The academy, simply referred to as West Point, is founded by Congress with the purpose of educating and training young men in the theory and practice of military science. 10 years after the establishment of the U.S. Military Academy in 1802, the growing threat of another war with Great Britain resulted in congressional action to expand the Academy's facilities and increase the West Point Corps. Beginning in 1817, the U.S. Military Academy was reorganized and the school became one of the nation's finest sources of civil engineers. 1877, the first African-American cadet graduated from the U.S. Military Academy, and in 1976, the first female cadets were admitted.
Too cool. Near and dear to the Hayslip family there. My cousin taught there.
I bet you didn't know this. I actually started the process applying to and got halfway through the application, like admission process to West Point, when I decided that wasn't the route I wanted to go.
Understood.
Yeah.
You got want to do it.
Yeah.
You got want to do it. We've had a number.
Almost
we've been
did it.
fortunate enough to have a number of four-state high schoolers that we've seen accepted over the time. Even had them in studio to talk about that process, and
really
some of them even come back and recruit for West Point. It's just amazing the fine young men and women that they turn out there. All right, our temperatures are going to be up into the 70s later on today. A whole bunch of sunshine really for the next 2 days. Now remember, coming up Thursday night into Friday morning, some good old-fashioned March thunderstorm activity.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Laura Lyerla from the Neosho Area Chamber of Commerce stops by the studio to talk about the Show Me Business Expo. Plus, authorities arrest a man they suspect of carrying out a string of shootings targeting homeless men. And we'll meet a mother and her daughter. We'll talk about how social media played a role in her anorexia. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, lawyers working on the case against 5 Guantanamo detainees accused of plotting this September 11th terror attacks are in talks for a plea deal. And that's according to a source familiar with the case. The source says defense attorneys and prosecutors are working on the plea agreement that would avoid a death penalty trial for the detainees. As you might know, the case involves the man accused of being the mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. The case has been in the pre-trial hearing for almost 10 years. If the lawyers do reach an agreement, what's sure to be a complicated and long trial would be avoided. The governor of Wyoming has signed a law banning a majority of abortions in the state if Roe versus Wade is overturned. On Tuesday, Governor Mark Gordon added his state to the list of 12 others with a trigger law, meaning the law would go into effect if the Supreme Court decides on a reversal on abortion. Under the new Wyoming law, exceptions would be made only in cases of rape, incest, or if pregnancy puts the mother at serious risk of death. The new restrictions would start as soon as the overturn of Roe versus Wade is certified. Early this morning, police in Washington, D.C. say they arrested a suspect in a string of shootings targeting homeless men in Washington, D.C. The alleged gunman is also a suspect in similar shootings in New York City. Michael George has the latest from Lower Manhattan.
Surveillance footage shows the arrest of the suspect wanted in connection with a string of shootings of homeless men in Washington, D.C. and New York.
After an intense investigation, ATF Washington Field Division took the suspect into custody at approximately 2:30 a.m.
Police say 30-year-old Gerald Brevard shot at least 3 homeless men in D.C. earlier this month, killing one of them, and then over the weekend shot 2 homeless men in New York City. Surveillance video shows the gunman nudging one victim before fatally shooting him.
The video evidence, the images that we've seen, this individual, we believe, I'm very confident that this is the person.
Here in New York's Soho neighborhood, where one of the deadly shootings happened, there's a sense of relief now that there's been an arrest.
It's good news that they caught him. You hate to see things like that happen.
There's relief, but what do we do now with the homeless? How do we protect them?
Forensic experts have confirmed the same gun was used in all the shootings.
You're kind of taken aback and you're shocked that someone can commit such a jarring act against a defenseless person.
Police say all the shootings happened in the early morning hours, usually while the victims were alone. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
D.C. police say the suspect is currently being interviewed and that more information will be coming soon. For the second year in a row, the National Park Service is denying a request from South Dakota to hold a July 4th fireworks celebration at Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore Superintendent Michelle Wheatley explained the decision in a Monday letter to the South Dakota Department of Tourism. Wheatley cited concerns including the potential for wildfires and complaints from some local Native American Indian tribes. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem filed a lawsuit last year when the National Park Service denied a similar request. A federal judge dismissed the suit. The state appealed, and that appeal is still pending. KOAM released a statement criticizing the most recent decision. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. We have with us is the CEO of the Neosho Area Chamber of Commerce, Lori Lyerl. Lori, thank you so much for your time this morning, because I know, well, you've got a big, you've been a tad.
Yes.
Tad bit busy. You have your Show Me Business Expo coming up, and this year's theme, Stars of the Four States.
That's
Hollywood
right.
theme, and folks, we're going to get to a little bit more Hollywood here in a little bit. But first, how did you choose this theme? How did this come about?
So, you know, one of the things we love when we have an expo is to have a theme that our vendors can just get really excited about, gives them a lot of variety to add games and things in their booth. And so we just thought that would be a fun thing that they could pick from different movies or different eras to represent. So we're looking forward to it. I know they get excited to have kind of a theme to decorate. It makes it a little more fun.
And the community loves seeing people that they know dress up as well. And once again, this is going to take place Friday evening and Saturday for most of the day for the general public. Now, Laura, you and I were just discussing here right before we came on the past 2 years and what it's been like to host a business expo virtually.
Yes.
Which presents its own challenges. What is it like not only for you as a chamber, but also to your businesses to be able to get back out and see people in person?
Oh, they're so excited, and we are too. You know, the virtual ones were as good as we could get, and we were able to get exposure for our businesses. But to be back live is just exciting. All the events that I've been going to, people are just craving face to face. You know, getting out, and of course, with spring upon us, everybody's just kind of, I think, ready to get out of the house and get out and see some new things and some positive things going on. There's a lot. It's a heavy world we're living in right now.
That's a very good point.
Let's get out and just see people and hear some smiles and play some games. And
if you've got some cabin fever, folks, that the Neosho Junior High coming up on Friday from 6 to 8 in the evening, and then Saturday running from 10 to 2 at the Neosho Junior High. You were talking about the exciting things that are going on in Neosho. When you take a look from your aspect, from the chamber aspect, you talked about some of the success stories that were actually able to, forgive me for using this word, survive, in essence, if not flourish, during our 2.5 years of the pandemic. Can you kind of talk about that from Neosho's business standpoint?
Yeah, I think Neosho did a really good job at just fostering the relationships these businesses had with our community. I think it allowed them to develop deeper relationships. People really embrace the concept of supporting their local businesses. And so we saw a lot of our businesses shift gears, start selling more online, shift how they served their customers, and really built really good relationships with them. And we've seen them thrive. We've seen our sales tax dollars increase all through
That's
COVID.
amazing.
You know, and so we've seen businesses start. As I've been at the chamber now 8 years, been in Neosho my whole life, working in our family business, but I have never seen as much activity and interest in Neosho as I do right now. Our downtown is coming back to life. That's close to my heart. I grew up with our family business being on the square and being downtown, and there's just a renewed investment. I tell people a lot, I was just talking yesterday about, a lot of things have shifted online. A lot of people, that's a really convenient thing, but you can't just survive on everything being shipped to your home. You want experiences. And so I think that's a new thing that people are looking for. They want to support local businesses. They want to have an experience. They want to come down to a downtown area that's thriving. Downtowns are where you see it's where you see things going. So, we've really embraced beautification in the last several years. Lots of flowers. The parks are just beautiful in Neosho, and I am so excited for spring. It's my favorite time of year, and so we just see this renewed interest in downtowns and in our housing. Houses you can't find right now. Our schools are putting a huge investment. We just got
such a marvelous school district too.
The new STEAM Academy downtown is just going to be one more thing downtown that's going to bring people downtown and help those businesses thrive down there. So just a lot of really exciting things. We try to just foster our community and our members to tell their story, and so we work hard every day at that.
No event is successful unless you have great backing people
right.
with you, and not only the people in your office, but I know you've got a couple presenting sponsors
that really
have stepped up.
Yeah, Arvest Bank is our presenting sponsor for the expo. They also are our EPIC, which is our Young Professionals Group sponsor this year.
That's a tremendous group,
yes,
by the way.
Yeah.
That I have a little, used to work with them when we were getting Pittsburgh's off the ground.
Yeah.
Tremendous group right there.
Yeah, so we're super excited about that. First Community Bank and Missouri Walnut are also sponsors, and then we are partnered, KOAM is one of our media sponsors along with several of the other media partners. That's just helping us get the word out and bringing that exposure to the businesses. So we'll have over 70 businesses and organizations present. You can come and learn more about the businesses that are working in our community. Great prizes. You know, at an expo, you can register for everything. You can leave there with pins and hats and cups and everything that you
But there's
can imagine.
something else too, okay, because Lori's come up with this great Show Me Expo Hollywood theme. And here's why you're going to want to make it out to the Neosho Junior High, whether it be from 6 to 8 on Friday or from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, because I understand that if I show up, I am going to have essentially the chance for my own theater experience.
That's right, that's right. So B&B Theaters in Neosho is a great partner of ours. Beautiful, I mean, gorgeous facility that got completely renovated right before COVID with all reclining
But
seats.
they stayed alive.
They stayed alive. They, great company, great family-owned company, and they have partnered with us to offer us a private showing. That can be you and 80 of your closest friends seeing a movie. So we are super excited to be able to offer that as a prize. You know, just recently I was at the Crowder auction and I saw that same thing get sold for over $3,000 at a.
Did you really?
Yes. So it is a great package. You know, could make a great prize to if you own a business and want to take all your employees.
Out.
If you have kids and want to have a great birthday party. Use it for a fundraiser, you know, there's lots of options, and they have lots of size theaters. So if you don't have 80 friends, they have some theaters that seat fewer people that you can make a more intimate experience for that.
It's not a bad idea. I kind of like that idea.
Like that idea.
No, but thanks.
And you would be pushing it for me.
B&B and Arvest and all the wonderful sponsors that you have. So once again, I'll let you give our particulars as far as times and location.
So it is this coming Friday, March 18th and 19th, 6 to 8 p.m. on Friday, 10 to 2 on Saturday. We have some outdoor booths, which are going to be, I think the weather's going to be all right. If it's a little rainy, you know, an indoor expo is a good.
There you go.
You know, we kind of have to find the balance between.
Saturday is going to be beautiful.
Yeah. We don't want it to be too beautiful because people won't want to be
inside.
inside.
We'll get you inside.
But 10 to 2 lets you come out, support those businesses, and then go and enjoy a beautiful. I'm so thrilled for spring to be here.
Lori Ladler, she is the CEO of the Neosho Area Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Lori, number one, I want to thank you for your time, and number two, I want to congratulate you on the success that your organization and the city of Neosho and its businesses have seen as you usher them through what have been a tumultuous 2.5 years. Yet here's a 4-state city that we're talking about that is going through growth.
Yes, it's exciting. I love getting to play a small part in it, you know, and have a great staff and great partners with the city and the businesses in Neosho.
What's the website?
NeoshoCC.com.
NeoshoCC.com. Check out the hours. Once again, Neosho Junior High School Friday and Saturday. More KOAM Morning News right after this.
When search.
Topping Health Watch this morning, some mental health and body image disorders are both linked to social media. Now parents are picking up the pieces and trying to figure out what to do next. Today we meet one mother and her daughter whose severe anorexia was apparently triggered by these apps.
Hey yo, jawline check.
What it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden.
I'm gonna file my teeth down with a nail file because they are not perfect.
It's challenges like these that drive teens to feel not picture perfect.
Is this right?
One of those teens was Miriam Fozzie. TikTok challenges became a huge trigger for Miriam.
It's like the face symmetry challenge or the jawline challenge.
And triggered her battle with anorexia. At its lowest, Miriam's weight plunged to 74 pounds and her heart stopped beating twice.
When she was admitted, she was very, very sick. She was literally on death's door.
Miriam is one of the countless teens who's been affected by toxic images on social media.
They're engaging in content
when it's toxic, that is telling them that they are not enough.
I don't believe that eating disorders are caused by social media, but they're absolutely triggered by them.
Naveen, like other parents, is now figuring out what to do about her child using social media. Dr. Manley says the key is communication.
Stay really attentive to how much time your child is spending on social media, have very clear limits, and pay attention to unusual mood fluctuations.
For now, Naveen is playing it safe and keeping Miriam away from social media.
Toxic TikTok trends shouldn't define who you are.
Dow Quick, KOAM News.
Massachusetts Attorney General led a bipartisan nationwide investigation of Instagram's impact on young people. And now a similar bipartisan investigation is looking at TikTok, trying to understand the negative effects the short-form video platform might have on the health of kids and teens. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Coming up, the city of Joplin pays respect to a hero fallen in the line of duty.
We'll see about a 30-degree warm-up in parts of the 4 states and what's going to be a marvelous middle of the week, the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Carl Junction students come together to raise money for families of the Joplin Police Department.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Tanya, we're anywhere from mid-30s to mid-40s, and so while we're spaced out right now, eventually everybody is going to end up around 73, 74 degrees. Just going to be an absolutely delightful looking Wednesday and Thursday for that matter, as our temperatures will continue to rise up for the next 2 days. Sunny skies, a little bit of a south wind for the afternoon hours, but remember, we still have big things on the horizon, and that's going to take place in the form of thunderstorm activity Thursday night. Not going to affect us for Wednesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon, but there it is as it rolls in and lasts all the way into Friday morning. And so we'll be looking at anywhere from 3/4 to 1.5 inches of accumulation. Get outside for the next 2 afternoons. Find yourself a little DIY that needs to be done around the yard.
Yeah, it's a great day to do the stuff outside for sure.
Fix a crack in a gutter.
That'd be wise. That'd be
It's my
very
afternoon.
wise. Clean up what my dog's destroyed in the backyard.
There you go. Be perfect for it.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Michael.
There's been a lot of comments about Ben's sacrifice last Tuesday and about the sacrifice he made. But I want us to realize something. Last Tuesday wasn't Ben's sacrifice. Coop's life was a life of sacrifice.
A husband, a father, a hero laid to rest. Funeral service at Missouri Southern's Leggett and Platt Center paid tribute to fallen Joplin police officer Corporal Ben Cooper, who gave his life in the line of duty 1 week ago. Members of the community attended the funeral service yesterday alongside friends, family, fellow first responders. Following the service inside, a ceremony was held outside, which included taps, bagpipes, and a helicopter flyover. Members of the community in the 4-state area gathered along Main Street from 3rd to 19th Street for the procession.
I want to pay our respects to the police officer, service to the community, and that's just, it's heartbreaking, but I think we as a community, I think it's brought people together.
People lose sight of what they go through on a day-to-day basis. Cops see the darkest parts of people, and it's a scary thing for a lot of people to have to actually think about. And my heart goes out really to the friends and family of those officers that were involved.
You can see the entire funeral service at the Leggett and Platt Center at KOAMNewsNow.com. or the KOAM News Now YouTube page. You can also see aerial footage of the funeral procession through our KOAM Plus app. Corporal Cooper graduated from Carl Junction High School in 1993, and now Carl Junction students are hosting an online auction to raise money for Joplin PD families. Items for sale include home decor and sports memorabilia from the Kansas City Chiefs and an autographed jersey from the Baltimore Ravens.
I'm more hoping that just giving back to the community, especially my dad is a police officer, so I totally understand. I probably don't understand to their level of what they're facing right now, but I've had that fear.
The auction will be on March 26th and 27th. You can find more information on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Funeral services will be held later this week for Officer Jake Reed. These services will also be at the Leggett and Platt Center. Visitation will be on Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. The funeral will be on Friday at 1. President Biden signed into law a federal budget yesterday that gives billions of dollars to Ukraine, and he's expected to announce an additional $800 million in military assistance today. Ukraine's president thanked President Biden, but this morning he is expected to call on more concrete help from the U.S. to fight the Russians. Laura Podesta has details.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will virtually address Congress today.
Our friend, Volodymyr Zelensky.
Yesterday, he spoke to Canada's parliament, asking lawmakers to picture what it would be like if the fighting was taking place in their cities.
Can you imagine hearing your children hear all these severe explosions, bombing of airport, bombing of Ottawa airport?
He repeated his call for a no-fly zone, something he's expected to do again today. But the West has refused out of fear for an all-out war, as NATO pilots would be directly engaged with the Russians. Kyiv came under deadly shelling on Tuesday. The city's mayor pleaded for residents to shelter, but said many want to fight.
Everyone understand, don't want to leave, want to defend our city.
In a surprise move, the prime ministers of Poland, the Czech Republic, and Slovenia visited the embattled capital.
We know that you are fighting not only for your homes, for your freedom, for your security, but also for ours.
Next week, President Biden has an opportunity to reaffirm alliances with much of Europe when he travels to Brussels for an emergency NATO summit.
The president's a big believer in face-to-face diplomacy, so it's an opportunity to do exactly that.
The White House didn't say if Mr. Biden will meet with Zelensky. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
United Nations says more than 3 million people have fled Ukraine, about half of them children. Judge Roy Bean dies in Langtree, Texas on this date back in 1903. A saloon keeper and adventurer before becoming a judge, Bean's claim to fame rested on the often humorous and sometimes bizarre rulings that he made it out as a justice of the peace in western Texas during the late 19th century. Bean once fined a dead man $40 for carrying a concealed weapon. He threatened one lawyer with hanging for using profane language when the hapless man referred to the habeas corpus of his client. By the 1890s, reports of Bean's curmudgeonly rulings had made him nationally famous.
As a kid, you learned about Judge Roy Bean because he had a roller coaster named after him at Six Flags over Texas.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah. And that was not for the little kids, for the intermediate kids to ride. Temperatures right now anywhere from, say, 36 to 46. So while we're widespread, let that sunshine begin to cook in. Number one, it can get rid of that patchy fog. Number two, lift us up into the 70s for back-to-back days. Thunderstorms Thursday night into Friday morning.
That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, employers begin welcoming workers back to the office as gas prices continue to skyrocket. Plus, we'll meet a teen in Tennessee who uses her talents to raise money to support Ukraine, a country half a world away. We want to know if you would do the same. We let you weigh in. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, across the country, employers are ramping up plans to welcome workers back to the office. But as CNN's Pete Montine reports, with gas prices at record highs, it's gonna cost them.
Across the country, companies are welcoming workers back to the office. Just this week, tech giant Twitter opened its doors, along with banking Goliath Wells Fargo, to its 250,000 employees. New data from research firm INRIX shows commuting has shot up 25% just this year, despite soaring gas prices.
Right now times are tough and I'm trying to make ends meet and stuff.
$6 has really impacted me.
It's not fair.
Sarah Kirikasian is turning to the LA Metro. In California, gas prices are among the highest in the nation.
It's very expensive. It's like an extra $200 a month just for my car. That's not including my daughter and my husband.
Moody's Analytics broke down the costs. It found that high gas prices will force families to spend another $1,300 a year, roughly 1% of the average household budget. Moody's analyst Scott Hoyt says that makes remote work even more enticing.
They force people into the office. They're forcing them to incur, a larger expense than they have in the past.
COVID has really been this great reset.
Bill Eiley of the Texas A&M Transportation Institute says the pandemic has proven to companies that remote work is possible and workers may still be able to push back.
It's probably easier to have a conversation with an employer about, hey, I'm really starting to notice this in my pocketbook.
Even still, the Biden administration sees the value in coming back to the office.
It's time for America to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again with people.
According to the AAA, the nationwide average for a gallon of gas as of Tuesday morning is $4.31. Ouch. Well, stocks gained ground on Tuesday. The Dow jumped 599 points. The Nasdaq rallied 367 and the S&P 500 rose 89. Today, the Federal Reserve is expected to announce its first interest rate hike since 2018. At the conclusion of its two-day policy meeting, Chairman Jerome Powell will likely forecast the central bank's plans for the rest of this year, which could include a half dozen more rate hikes. Those could lead to higher borrowing costs for credit cards, auto loans, and mortgages. President Biden signs a $1.5 trillion budget bill funding the government through September. It includes $13.6 billion to aid Ukraine. And today the president will announce an additional $800 million in security assistance to Ukraine. An iconic Starbucks disposable cup may soon be a relic of the past. In an effort to reduce its waste by 50% by the year 2030, Coffee Giant says it'll start shifting away from single-use plastics. Starbucks says it's also set a goal by the end of next year, allowing customers throughout the U.S. and Canada to be able to use their own personal reusable cup. Starbucks is also considering a program that would allow visitors to borrow reusable cups. Interesting. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
My goodness, Tanya, what will they come up with next? Stainless steel straws? Oh, wait! This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning Insta poll, using your skills to help others. Introduce you to a teenage artist in Tennessee who's using her art skills to help preserve cities and skyscapes of Ukraine. She paints them. Absolutely amazing, talented teenager right there. Our question for you is, would you use a skill you have to help raise money for Ukraine? Right now, we're still split down the middle, 50-50. Well, take that back. That's the great thing about the Insta poll is we watch it update right there on the fly. Back and forth we go. Appreciate everybody's engagement. We're going to come back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. But first, a trip to the Big Apple. Let's check in with Gail.
Hello to you, I'm Gail King. Coming up on CBS Mornings, our Women's History Month series, we're calling it Changing the Game. Jamie Yucca sits down with Melinda French Gates and Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett. She is one of the pioneers behind Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. Thank you so much, Dr. Corbett. That's coming right up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Chief Lewis Davis of Knoll, Missouri, served in the U.S. Navy. We're proud to salute Chief Lewis Davis, this morning's four-state hero.
Check out this headband by Lina Ann Norfelies. How adorable is that? And how adorable is it that she's celebrating her big first birthday in Carl Junction? And Lina Ann, happy birthday with love from Granny and the entire family.
Oh, what a cutie there. And we got another first birthday to celebrate. This one in Girard. Cody Twigger, turning 1 year old this year. Happy birthday.
If you're going to start a legacy, start it young. There you go. Happy birthday to Legacy Keller as she turns the big number 2 in Galena.
Aw, what a cutie there. All right, we got a belated birthday wish going out to Gabe Duncan, who's now 14 years old. With his award-winning hay bale or something like that.
We'll buy
in
it.
Podwin, Kansas.
Peyton
That's a great way to display those. I love it.
That's pretty cool. Peyton Miller is celebrating her 15th birthday. Peyton, I want you to know these birthday wishes come with love from Mom and Dad.
All right, and we've got Steve Headley turning 65 years old this year.
That's a long time no see. Right
We thank you for your service, Mr. Headley in Uniontown.
Happy birthday, Mr. Headley. Danny Dutton is celebrating his 60th birthday. Danny, happy birthday to you in Joplin. And Cindy Pinkney with a birthday on this March the 16th. Cindy, I want you to have a marvelous day. Happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. That's where you can send them into birthdays at KOAMTV.com or our website, KOAMNewsNow.com. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
Yeah, you can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. All you have to do is go to our website and sign up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com. Sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Coming up when we transition to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, a touching story of a Missouri couple married for 3 decades. Then a diagnosis of a liver disease changed everything and brought other things into focus. Their amazing story when we transition to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, and we'll be back right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Friends, family, fellow first responders, and the community gathered Tuesday for Corporal Ben Cooper's funeral service. Following the service inside, a ceremony was held outside, which included taps, bagpipes, and a helicopter flyover. Members of the community and the four-state area gathered along Main Street from 3rd to 19th Street for the procession. Funeral services will also take place this week for Officer Jake Reed. These services will also be at the Leggett and Platt Center. Visitation will be on Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. Funeral will be on Friday at 1. Corporal Cooper was a 1993 graduate of Carl Junction High School. Now Carl Junction students are hosting an online auction to raise money for Joplin PD families. Items for sale will include home decor and sports memorabilia from the Kansas City Chiefs and an autographed jersey from the Baltimore Ravens. Coffeyville, Kansas Police Department has found the person of interest they've been searching for in the shooting death of a minor. Police say the shooting happened on Sunday on North Walnut Street. The victim from Chanute was found with gunshot wounds and was taken to a hospital where that victim later died. Authorities have arrested 19-year-old Trevin Hayes Smith of Coffeyville. That person is being held as a person of interest in the case. Check out today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Now, Tanya, as the sky is beginning to lighten outside of Television City, give you an idea of the fog in some of those low-lying areas, but our visibility actually has gotten a little bit better from where we started the show, so we are headed in the right direction, and the sunshine eventually going to burn it off and do so relatively quickly as our temperatures will hop up from the 30s and 40s all the way into the 70s for what's a delightful mid-March, midweek afternoon. Little south wind, 10 to 15 miles per hour, but we get to enjoy back-to-back days of abnormally warm temperatures. Remember, the drastic changes, they appear Thursday night. That's when thunderstorm activity appears from the west end of the south, carries us all the way into Friday morning. Cooler temperatures to end our work week, right back into the 60s and 70s, just in time for the Neosho Business Expo on Saturday.
There you go. Well, coming up today at noon, we're making Italian-style meatloaf in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Of course, your morning news continues on KOAM, CBS Mornings. Coming up next, David Begnod speaks to a woman who lost her face in a horrific dog attack. We've got that coming up, her remarkable story about resilience.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And this morning, the Tarzan Zerbini Circus is stopping by Studio K. They're going to bring fun wherever they go.
So nice, we should do it twice. For those of you that did not know, Tanya always wanted to run off and join the circus when she was a kid. I'm going to let her tell that story coming up here in just a little bit. Be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.
Buying new appliances.